hello. Welcome to Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliance TV show that we do every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do appreciate each and every one of you that really take your time to come and watch us. This is something that I don't take lightly at all. So, what do we do at Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliant TV show? This is where we spotlight today's business leaders, entrepreneurs, unique and most successful individuals to bring you tips and strategies to up-level your life as well as your business. And today is no exception. My name, of course, is Christy Iwuchukwu, and I am the CEO and founder of Women's Coaching Association, where we have the mission to educate, collaborate, and speak. That's right. And I hope you do join us by going over to Women's Coaching Association.com and click on the membership info. You're going to find all the perks of becoming a member today. Listen, grab your friends, grab someone in your tribe, and get ready. You know what they say, no takers are money makers. And today, I want you to come on over, share this link, because I have an awesome business strategist among everything else she does. And she's really going to hone in and talk about how to reinvent your business and your life. You know, this is a very difficult time that we are going through right now. And she's going to help us unpack a lot of things to add value to all of us. So, my guest today is Chanel David. That's right. And she's coming to us all the way from Sacramento. That's right. I have to say all the way from Sacramento. She's coming to us from all the way from Sacramento, depending on where you are watching us from. So who is she? Well, I don't know what I'll do justice to who she is and what she does, but I'm going to give you a few information about who she is and what she does. She is a business strategist. And let me tell you, when you talk about someone having been through something to bring you a lot of strategies on how to really thrive in times of crisis, she is that person to help you do that. So please help me welcome my guest, my friend, Chanel David. Chanel, welcome to the show. Can you hear me?
Thank you. I sure can. What an honor. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. It is a pleasure and honor to be with you. And first, I want to tell your audience, our audience today, just how remarkable you are. And it has been such a pleasure over these last several years to honestly watch you. And to me, you are the epitome of reinvention.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You and I go a long way. I think it was 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. You were one of my speakers in one of my conferences, Brilliance, Rock Your Brilliance conference, and you so graciously was able to come through for me, and I really appreciate it. So you guys know, sometimes technology, I have to be careful that we don't go. Yes, I got it. Excuse me for that. But anyway, so for those people who don't know who Chanel is, could you please let us know, how did you get here? Because oftentimes people see people when they have gotten there, wherever there is. And sometimes they've gotten to the mountain. But I say that the most value, the most lessons are learned while those people are in the valley. So how did you get here? What journey did you go through to be able to emerge and be who you are and where you are today?
Well, to be honest with you, and again, I appreciate it so much. It is much of what I see in you that I have been through. And that is why the synergy between us and what we can go and create together is pretty spectacular. And I would say at the core of reinvention, I always start with this, is the word invent. And the word invent is about creating. And so all I do with my clients centers around this concept of creating. I will give you a little bit of background. I'll get to why I mentioned reinventing to begin with. But I come from a very traditional background. After I earned a bachelor's of science degree, I went to work in corporate America and had an incredible career in the corporate world. Ultimately earned an MBA in global economics. And I share that because I was all about what I thought life was supposed to be like. Get a good degree, work very hard, work on your career. And I rose within the company that I was at. It was in retail. I was a buyer. I was ultimately a merchandise manager, vice president, with a huge successful retail career. But what I would share with you, I traveled all over the world. I was able to launch just timeless fragrances, cosmetics on worldwide stages. But I would tell you that at the end of the day, it's about being authentic to yourself. And although I had an incredible career, and ultimately my biggest accomplishment is the raising of 3 beautiful children, now adults, in and of themselves, incredible, each and every one of them. College graduates, out on their own, really migrating through their own careers right now. But it was what I would call a very, very traditional existence. And my reinvention process started many, many years ago when I realized that who I was becoming and what I had become was only a fraction of the value of what I had to give. And that's where, for me, the reinvention process really started. With a huge corporate background, very successful, ended up opening my own company, raising children. And for those viewers and those listeners, they can imagine all the time, effort that goes into everything and everyone else but myself. And so today I thought what would be most helpful is really to talk about what it's like to re-find your authentic self. Be able to bring, not for everyone else, but for yourself first, so that you could become the strongest physically, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually that you can be, so that you could become the strongest links in the chain. And that one detail is what I think is missing for a lot of people. You know, sometimes we get on a cycle, we get into a habit, and I call it like a domino effect. We've all heard that saying, where one thing leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other. And suddenly, is your life relevant to where you want to go? And I knew in my heart and in my soul, no matter how magnificent my career had been and who I had been able to meet along the way and work for and build for, it ultimately comes down to each of us have gifts, and bringing those gifts forward is really, at the end of the day, the most important thing of who are you, what do you bring, what do you have to share, and how you can bring an inspiration to someone else because you can show them that it's been done. And that's where I really start this journey. And I will be very open and transparent and vulnerable in this process. Nearly now close to 6.5, 7 years ago, I had a very, very devastating appointment with my doctor. And not that what she said that day was really anything I didn't know, but it hit me in a brand new way. I had taken my blood test prior to that appointment. I went in, I got prepared for the appointment. She walked in the room. She literally told me to get off the table, get dressed, and come into her office with literally no exam. And at that moment, I knew something was drastically wrong. I went into her office. She took a look at my blood results, and she was frightened. I had been her patient for close to 17 years at that point. She knew me. She knew my family. She knew what I was all about. And she was literally seriously concerned for my life. And it was at that moment when I started hearing the words from her that I was morbidly obese, that I had high blood pressure, and I had high cholesterol, and I had literally sugar levels that were through the roof. And she said the words to me that I'm a walking time bomb. And if I don't get my health under control, she was nervous for my life. And it was so direct and it was so raw, but it was one of those moments in life that I will never forget, but actually has turned into the greatest warning I can imagine. Because it was at that moment, literally, that I thought about everything, everyone I was doing things for. And so in the process of the last 6.5, 7 years, not only has it been a reinventing of my health, but it's been a reinventing of my life. And now I am authentically in purpose of helping others not only to reinvent their life, but their businesses and all facets of what's going on with them.
Wow. I still remember when we met about 3 years, 2017 or 2017. I thought 2008, 2017.
Yeah.
And you were telling me your story and how you emerged and how became who you are now, leading a whole lot of people in another company after you stepped away from your previous job. And I couldn't imagine it until I saw your picture, and it looked like it's totally two different people. So what mental strength did you have to go from where you were that way, and you can talk about the way and the way that you are now, and what did it actually take you to go from there? And even more so, that I guess the better question will be, at the time that you were doing, at the time that you heard the doctor said you gotta do this or else, what was your mindset at that time?
So my mindset to start with being morbidly obese, I never let it bother me. I
Mm.
actually buried it and denied it for so much of my adult life. And every year I gained a little more weight and I gained a little more weight. But I was still being successful and I was still raising a family and I was still running businesses and I was still volunteering and I was still on board of directors. And everything else in my life was almost separate from me. So I can say that at that moment of her talking to me, I put those two together and realized that everything I was doing was not separate from me. It was me. And for me to honor everyone else in my life, it was going to have to be a choice of honoring myself first. So, in the first ensuing months after really having that conversation with her, I was introduced to an herbal beverage, a weight loss coffee, and I had been a coffee drinker all my life. So, for me to hear the words weight loss coffee, I was really skeptical. But sure enough, it was not the coffee, but it was the herbs that were infused in that coffee that actually shifted the trajectory of my life. And to this day, I still drink it because it helps my metabolism normalize, work balance, and helps carbs, sugars, other things that we all eat and drink metabolize more efficiently. So it started with an herbal drink that helped shift how my body was functioning from the inside out. But after that, it became paying attention to my health in a brand new way. So I started to look at the quality of foods as an example that I was eating. What kind of meats? Were there toxins in my food? What kind of pesticides? So fruits and vegetables and meats and all of that, I really started to take a look at what I was doing because we are what we eat and what we drink. I started really looking at that. About 8 to 9 months into that process, maybe even over about a year, I guess, I had lost somewhere around 75 pounds already in that first year. And I share that because I want to give people hope that they can do it. Today, I've actually lost more weight than I weigh today. I'm actually literally half my size.
Wow.
But it came from a whole lifestyle change. It came from, as I mentioned, paying attention to what I was eating. And then in about a little over a year, a friend of mine was asking me about my exercise routine, of which I had none. I had not exercised. Physical activity was not part of my life. And therefore, infusing that into my life was, I think, the biggest shift that happened. And it started out in a very small way, small hand weights, short walks, learning to do a push-up that took over 3 weeks to learn to do. But what it did for me was made me realize that I was functioning in just a fraction of myself. And when I infused fitness into my life, it was not about how hard that was. Yes, that was physically hard. But the realization that came from the limiting beliefs that I was allowing myself to live with, that I was not athletic. I had no athletic ability. That was for others, not for me. That was a piece of when I talk about what I've lost, I actually feel like I've gained more. And it has set an example and a tone for everything else in my life. Because just starting to walk and having literally the experience of walking not even 100 yards and then 200 yards, and ultimately a quarter mile, and then reaching the point where I could walk a mile. And I just kept going. And it was the small steps, day after day after day after day, that I kept in. And I set a very lofty goal for myself. And that goal, that was in a summer, and the following April was the San Francisco Half Marathon. And I set a goal for myself that I was going to do that 13.1 miles and cross that finish line, and I did. And what happened was it wasn't easy. I had to stop. I had to sit. I didn't think I could finish it. But again, I just kept pushing and I just kept pushing. And I think that is the key to what has happened in my life and business, is that stood as an example of just keep pushing and get rid of, and I had to learn myself to get rid of those limiting beliefs that were just made up to begin with. And I find it so fascinating that so many of us limit ourselves in our lives based on things that are not even true. I didn't know that I didn't have any athletic ability. It was a story that I made up. And so whatever it is in life, whether about your physical well-being, your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, there are always ways to sort of take inventory of your life and figure out, are you working at the greatest capacity you can? And so all of that led to actually me sharing that story, writing that out, and developing a philosophy of life. And that is where the Reinvented Life comes in. I actually wrote a book and have established 5 principles for anything in life that one wants to create something new with. And that has become the foundation for business transformation, individual transformation, for people, for organizations, for businesses, that all stemmed from, I had a health crisis and I wasn't going to just give into it. I was going to beat it. And we never know, but we want to give ourselves and we want to honor ourselves and give ourselves that best chance that we can.
In other words, what you thought was really your shortcomings, and in this particular case, it was really that near death, if I may say, experience where the doctor told you, if you don't do this, the next thing that will follow will be, and you did not like the news. And can you even imagine that, like you said, is that limiting beliefs that we all, a lot of us, have, that I can't do this and I can do that. I'm too old for this. I'm too fat for this. Until something like that happens to you, you never really know what you can do. I know sometime this year I said, I went out to walk, and I've never walked that long before. But I gave myself that challenge. I had to prepare myself. And sometimes that's really what it takes, being able to, because it takes a lot of mental strength to go from, I can't do this, to, I have to do this, or I'm going to try, or not actually saying I'm going to try, but actually trying. It takes a lot of mental strength to be able to do that. But before I get to my next question, we're going to dive into, I want to say hello to our viewers, Maureen Stevenson and Lawana Parker. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. Please go ahead, and if you have any question, go ahead and put your question in the comment section, and I will get to it at the end of this conversation. Thank you again for joining us. And let's continue. So for somebody, when I think about your journey, I think about how it also applies in business,
Yes.
because you see somebody who wants to do something, who wants to start their own business, and yet they have heard that so many businesses fail within the first 3 5 years, and as a result they don't want to get started. But if you never get started, you don't know whether you're going to write the same story. So share with us, how do we get started as it relates to business? If I'm sitting on the fence wondering, how do I even get started? What would it take me to get started?
It goes back to what I started with, was that word reinvention. The core of it is invent, and to invent something, whether it be business or otherwise, it is about creation. And so today, more than ever, people, in order to go from just surviving to
Mhm.
thriving, they need to understand this concept of being in purpose and following their passions. Because I have seen over the last 6 months, 6 to 7 months, honestly, more creativity from the average person because they have a gift to share. And so I would start with any business, whether it's an existing business or one you want to create or one you want to start, to be passionate about what you're doing. The platforms are there. The visibility platforms are there. It may have shifted from storefronts, offices, buildings to online, but nonetheless, people can get visible actually in even greater ways than they ever have, because there is a worldwide platform for them. It has been there for many, many years. But there was, again, a limiting belief on a lot of people's minds that that was just for others. So just like the limiting belief that I had about not being athletic, there are others that have limiting beliefs that for them to not just, again, survive but thrive online was just for others. So I would start with getting in action and staying in motion with what you want to do. And I'm going to read something to you because I think it's very relevant. It's actually from my book. It's on the back cover, and everyone can see there's a hummingbird on the front of my book. And it's become a theme for businesses because the hummingbird represents joy, hope, love, and life itself. They are known for their perpetual motion. They can hover and they can fly forward. They are also the only known bird that can fly backward. So, as in life, even if you fall backward momentarily, the book and the hummingbird is a guide to help one stay in mission. And I think that is the most important advice, is, as you just started out by asking, get started. Find something that you are passionate about. I have seen people that have been music teachers in school, as an example, that no longer are able to go visit with their students in person, but they have actually gone online, gone on to virtual technology, and are giving music lessons, as an example. People that want to create whatever it is, the key is to know that they come from a place of abundance And they come from a place to realize that there is a large world out there, and there are plenty of customers, and what they have, what their gifts are, what their business is all about can be reached literally to a worldwide audience. Then it is them getting the right advice from coaches, from business analysts, from strategists, from networks. There are so many networks that have emerged online, women's business networks, entrepreneurial business networks, that they can bring ideas and find people that want to support them. Because within the principles of business, it is all about connecting, and connecting with your customers, and connecting with a network of people that actually you can support their goods and services, and they can support yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You brought up a good point. You and I were talking, and we're talking about virtual photography. And I couldn't believe it until you had your own. That was on Thursday. And I had the privilege to see your picture. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. So, talk about reinventing yourself, how she went because of pandemic, and now she's helping people. It doesn't matter anywhere you are in the world, you can sit in your house in Sacramento and being photographed by someone who lives in London. How cool is that?
Exactly.
And I just couldn't wait to see that picture. I was like, oh my God. But that came because, like you said, her passion. She has the passion for photographing people. But now, because of pandemic, she no longer can go out and physically photograph people. Somehow, someway, she found a way to still. Now it's even better. It's even better because she can photograph anybody from everywhere in the whole world, rather than just focusing right there in London where the lady lives. How cool is that? And
It's
go ahead.
no, it's incredible, and it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Because as yourself, I couldn't picture what a virtual photo shoot would be like. I've been in many photo shoots, but nothing that was done online. And this is an example where someone's business that was an in-person event oriented business, photographing events that were then canceled, that weren't happening anymore. She got creative. She has a gift. She's a marvelous photographer, and she has a gift. And this is an exact example of what I'm sharing, which is when you get creative about what you can do, not only is she now surviving, she's a perfect example of thriving. She now has business way outside
Yeah.
of her local community. It's literally around the world. And it is all done because we have the technology, and she was not going to let herself be limited anymore. It is so thriving, in fact, that she's actually been able to leave her traditional day job, do
Yeah.
this 100% of the time. And one of the key principles in business is efficiency. And it is so efficient what she does, because within 1 hour, you can accomplish what could typically take 3 to 4 hours, travel in some cases, going to some places, whereas in 1 hour, she can accomplish an entire brand photo shoot. It's really incredible. And what I love about it, and what I've developed at the Reinvented Life, is 5 principles. And these principles hold true no matter what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, our actions and our thoughts, which is the first principle of anything, become habits. The second principle of these habits move into routines. And routines are collections of habits. They become lifestyles and then embedded into what one is all about. So in business, oftentimes, as in our individual lives, we develop habits and routines that have just become the way things are always been done, right? So it is the ability to adopt to change. And I have heard so many times in these last 6 to 7 months when things get back to normal. Well, what I always advise people on in my conversations and networking groups and masterminds and thought leader groups and all of it is the same. This is the normal. This is the normal. And by that, I mean the ability to react and to embrace change. Because if it showed us anything over the last 6 to 7 months, is that we really don't have control over what we're doing. We can do all the planning, we can take all the action steps, but when things are 100% different than we thought they would be, our ability to react, shift, repurpose, reinvent, if you will, our surroundings, our lives, our businesses, is what is going to make someone be able to thrive. And so it is in that same way that I talk about the hummingbird and the ability to fly forward, fly backwards. Hummingbirds can even fly sideways. How many times in life have we just been kind of staying in the same routine, flying sideways, not really going forward or backward? But when you stay in action, even if it's backward, and you move yourself forward, it's that same principle with business. And it's actually, the simplicity of this has actually been very refreshing for people to be able to break through a lot of the chaos and a lot of the noise that's out there right now.
I talk about reinvention, and it's about mindset. It's about limiting belief. It's about thinking about something different than the way it used to be. And I think about the pandemic, because that's the one that we're in right now. And I'm looking at a lot of people that have been laid off. And some people have not been laid off. But this opportunity, they have really become better than they used to be, because something they never thought they would be able to do it, they have tried it in this pandemic. Yeah, the rest is history. And I know some people that left their jobs. Like they're not going back, already put their resignation, they are not going back. But if this hasn't happened, I don't think that would have been the case. Now, talking about the lady that is doing virtual photography, if this pandemic hasn't happened, I don't think that would have been the case. And oftentimes it's just a matter of having a reset, because that's really what it is, having a reset. And even in our business, as you said, sometimes we could be doing something and perhaps it's not working, or perhaps it's taking too long. You can look at it in one or two ways. Perhaps you haven't found the best way for it to work, or it could be that that's really not what you're supposed to be doing at that time. And doesn't mean it doesn't work, but perhaps at that time, can you look at it from a different perspective? Can you look at it from a different perspective? Reset, and then come from another angle. And perhaps that's the angle that will work. Maybe that is not the right time for it at that particular time. And when I think about that, the reset, I think about asking you, what would be the right, how do we even begin? But better question is, how does one reset? Is the better question. How does one reset?
I think the first thing one has to do, whether it's their business or their life, is to take inventory, if you will, of what is going on with them or their business at the moment. And really be very real about that. What is working? What isn't working? What needs to be shifted? And I think taking that inventory and really honing in, whether you're starting something or you're wanting to reinvent something, it has to start with being extremely real with yourself. And I think one of the other beautiful pieces of this time is more and more people are getting the fact that they don't have to be living in a way that they had been conditioned to believe had to be done in a certain way. So the first part of it is shifting your mind and being open, more fluid is another way to describe it, with new ideas. Not being married to fixed ideas is, I think, the very first step that someone has to take a long look at and a real look at, being very honest about maybe not living with what the potential could be anymore, but living with the reality of what is. And I think that is a number one piece that has to happen for people. The second piece is find something that you are excited about. Find something that you are good at. Find something you are skilled at. Find something that you are passionate about. Because oftentimes, even if you are not able to do it in a way you've done before, maybe you can move into a mode of mentoring. Maybe you can move into a mode of teaching that to others. Because right now, people are yearning for information. And there is so much out there that they don't know how to start. Mm-hmm. So be very, very clear about what it is you want, what it is you want to do, what it is you want to develop, and then you can hone in on that very, very specifically. And remember, it may be something diametrically opposed to the way things have already been done. So I think that's a second very key point for people to remember. And then I think probably the most important piece is for people to recognize the speed at which things are changing. And it is so important to get away from overthinking things, over planning things, and just get into action. Because there's a saying that people get tired of getting ready to get ready, studying something so much or planning something so much. And then by the time that gets ready to get put into action and put into plans, something has shifted, something has changed. So I believe that businesses that are willing, as an example, to look in that gap, look between where things are, where people want them to be, or if it's within one's own life, and work within that gap. What is going to achieve that the fastest? What kind of information do they need? What kind of coaching do they need? What kind of partnerships do they need? What kind of advice can they get from people that are actually out there doing it? Because an investment in oneself today and an investment in one's business today is going to make all the difference. So the third piece is get into action and get into action fast, because we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what's going to happen tonight. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But when you are in purpose and you are actually working to not only do for yourself, but as I mentioned, be an inspiration for others, that is where the strength comes from. And then I think the fourth piece of it, again, whether it be your business or your life, is work on your own confidence. Because when you are working from a place of self-doubt and you are working from a place of, I don't know, and I may not be ready, and I may not be good enough, and all those other places that people find themselves in, it is not going to serve them best. And so knowing that even if some of that anxiety exists, and even if some of those reservations and hesitations exist, it's learning to get into action in a very confident way and in a way that you have a lot of belief in what you're doing. Because you, again, can be an inspiration to others, to your clients, to friends, community, family, anyone, when your confidence in yourself is steadfast. So I hope that helps in terms of where to start.
It helps a whole lot. I train speakers, especially new speakers, and I oftentimes one of the reasons they don't get out and be visible is this confidence of perception of what other people will think about what they're saying. And in my own case, English is my second language. And I tell people I have no shame in my game. I'm gonna share my message regardless of my double chin, regardless of how I look, right? Get the message. And oftentimes people are looking to put it on a silver platter while people are really waiting for you to give them the medicine. They don't care about putting it on the silver platter. And you mentioned that. And in your journey, I watch you. And I watched you when you were starting. I mean, I didn't know you when you were starting in your midway, starting out in your journey. And I can't even imagine the perception or what you were thinking at that weight that you were at that time, how uncomfortable it was for you. What maybe going to a restaurant, whether you were even able to go to a restaurant, because people are watching you, talking about you as an obese lady. But in spite of what happened, in spite of people looking at you, in spite of people talking bad about you, that did not deter you. And look at where you are now and what you have accomplished. So I really, really applaud you for the mental strength it took for you to get to where you are. And you really are an example of the fact that if you don't stop, if you never quit, you will always succeed. It may take a little while, but eventually you'll get there. So thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to Martine Cadet. Thanks for watching, Martine. Thanks to Lawana Parker and Maureen Stevenson. Thank you all for watching. If you have a comment, please be sure to put on the comment section. Please be sure to put it on the comment section. I appreciate you all, and share this video as well. I'm sure a lot of people will get something out of it, get value out of it. So as we come to the close, Chanel, as we come to the close, do you have a final word for our audience?
There are so many places that people are hearing and seeing about what they need to improve on and what they need to do better and all of that. And there's such a focus on one's weakness. If I actually stayed in a place where I was, which when I flew, and I flew often for my job, for my work, and so forth. I actually could not buckle a seatbelt on an airplane without purchasing an extender, which I did, to be able to buckle the seatbelt on a plane. Now, if I stayed in that and I wallowed in that, it could be a very big downward spiral. But and the reason I bring that up, I did, was started to concentrate on my strengths. And that is the shout out to people that I want them to hear more than anything, is work to our strengths. We could spend lifetimes concentrating and focusing on weaknesses. And it's not a matter of not wanting to make improvements, but it's wanting to make improvements by using your strengths. And that is the key. For you to be able to host a show with incredible guests, and English is not your first language, you have focused on not the language, but your strength of connecting with people. And that is what makes you so magnificent, is you are not willing to let a language barrier get in the way of you showing people, coaching people, interviewing people on how to show up and how to show up in the best way that they possibly can. If people constantly were focusing only on what they couldn't do, it is not going to allow them to springboard from a platform on what they can do. And so that is what I would say is the biggest message in one's business and in one's life, is be themselves, be the strongest and best of themselves, and know and have confidence that they have gifts to give. And they literally are taking away the opportunity for people to receive those gifts when they hold back. And so don't be afraid of inventing. Don't be afraid of creating. Don't be afraid, but rather than be in the phase of the knowing of what could be. And that's really what I would want my message from today to be.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you giving so much. Don't focus on your weakness. Focus on your strength. Because when you focus on what you're good at, what you're not good at will lessen, and you will be focusing so much on that. And when it comes to confidence, the only way to get confident is to do what? To do that thing that scares you the most. And in the process, you'll get better doing it. Thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to our viewers, Loana Parker, Martine Cadet. Martine was, I think last week she was the guest in our show last week, and she is the queen of social media, helping individuals up level their social media as well. So please follow Martine, follow Loana Parker, follow Maureen Stevenson, who's also a fitness coach, helping women really do well during their menopausal period. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all. We do this every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I bring experts to talk about different topics to help you about your life, about your business. Again, this show is sponsored by Women's Coaching Association. Women's Coaching Association, our mission is to educate, collaborate, and speak. That's right. That's what we do. And this show cannot exist without you. It is because of you that we bring this show. Yeah, that's right. It's because of you that we bring this show. I appreciate you. Until next time, everybody. Thank you so much for watching us, and I'll see you again next Monday, same time, same place. And thank you for being an awesome guest. I appreciate you, and I will be talking to you next time. Bye bye.
Beautiful. Thank you.